members of the British parachute team, the Red Devils. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Overnaar is here with me. He called him Blart. And Kyle, a pleasant good morning to you, sir. We got ourselves an air show and a demo.
Good morning to you, Rob. It's a pleasure to be here again. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Captain Gronemeyer, Commander Strike Wing Atlantic, Captain Geist, Commanding Officer of NAS Oceana, and all the men and women of this great base, welcome to the NAS Oceana Airshow Air Power Demonstration.
Air power demo in just a couple of minutes. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get an opportunity to bring back in the two aircraft from the Warrior flight team, and they're going to give us a few more passes here as those jets from the Sunliners form up. And by the way,
should an adversary be fortunate enough to survive the volley and make it to the merge, it will come face to face with the world's premier dogfighters. Two F-A-18Es from VFA 81 Strike Fighter Squadron, the Sunliners, are going to be setting up this demonstration. If you look to the left and right of the field right now, here they are coming to the first merge. Trying to take advantage of any error the other person is making. Command demonstrating how an F-A-18, if it hits an aggressive pilot, can turn inside the flight path of an adversary and achieve a quick kill on the enemy aircraft. Once an aircraft has achieved the offensive advantage, you will begin to employ weapons. Typically, a pilot will first employ his air-to-air missiles, the A-120 AMRAAM or A-9X Sidewinder. If unsuccessful, as we can see up here to our right, he will then maneuver for a gunshot. Again, we're going to see another F-18F Super Hornet, F-18C Hornet, both from VFA 106. They're again going to be showing the incredible maneuverability in the vertical environment. commonly used technique is to conduct a show of force over a hostile formation of troops or a building. Flying fast and flying low. To your right, you can see a Hornet Super Hornet show of force. Without firing a single shot. Usually the mere presence of our aircraft convinces the enemy to lay down their weapons and avoid a deadly situation. If a show of force is not successful or troops find themselves under attack, they must resort to close air support, or CAS. This is CAS in the form of a 9-line, which includes all the pertinent information required to defend troops on the ground. The executive officer of VFA 81, with wingman Lieutenant Verbal Bachman. Often when the target is attacked, if it has the capability, it will begin to maneuver and set up for any surface air defenses that it has. Up next is the pop attack. To your right, you will see two F-18E Hornets returning at a low altitude at a speed of 500 miles per hour and an altitude of 500 feet in an attempt to remain undetected and unthreatened by many surface-to-air threats. At 2 miles from the target, each pilot will commence a 4G pull to position for final attack. In the climb, within 2,000 feet, each pilot will visually acquire his target and before rolling inverted to position his aircraft for the employment of air-to-ground munitions. This type of attack increases the weapon capability against armored vehicles and personnel in the open. After releasing their ordnance, the pilots will aggressively maneuver off target. From the right, the F-18 pop attack. Devastating surprise attack, but he has only awoken the enemy. Commander G.G. Rhodes is a graduate of the United States Navy Fighter Weapons School, more commonly referred to as Top Gun. With the enemy watching the aircraft depart to your left, ground personnel will call in a second section with a fresh batch of weapons. To confuse the enemy, they will be attacking from the right, opposite the direction of departure from the last section. With an accurate coordinate that can be passed from aircraft to aircraft in minimal time, they will attack the target at high speed as the section to achieve maximum destruction. The lead aircraft is piloted by Lieutenant Waldo Wilson with his wingman, Lieutenant Commander Woogie Wazowski. A-18C Hornets setting up to attack enemy personnel in the open with their 20mm cannons as they run from their damaged vehicles. Firing over 6,000 rounds per minute of high explosive armor-piercing bullets, their internal Gatling gun is able to destroy even the most heavily defended vehicles and personnel. From your vantage point, you will be able to see the trail of explosions as they attempt to concentrate their bullets on moving targets. The 6-barrel Gatling guns are expending ordnance at a rate of 100 rounds per second. As a result, oftentimes you will see the aircraft recover from their nose-low attitude and impact the bullets long before you will ever hear the sound of the jet noise. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, the F-18C Hornets straight attack. In a last effort to destroy the enemy section, the section will be setting up for pop attacks from our right. They'll be employing cluster bombs. This time a cluster bomb is a single bomb made up of many smaller bomblets. This allows for the destruction of personnel or vehicles that are spread out over the battlefield with a single attack. From the right, the A-18C Hornets cluster bomb attack. That's a direct hit once again. Once the enemy has been completely destroyed, this section of jets will return overhead the target area in one last show of force to deter any of the defeated enemy's friends from thinking that joining the fight is a good idea. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look to your left, you'll see the last show of force by these Hornets. Self-contained Naval Air Force is the ability to refuel aircraft in flight. The Navy's newest multi-role strike fighter also serves as the Air Wing's Texaco in the sky, providing fuel to all the other aircraft in the Air Wing, both day and night. The F-18E Super Hornet, approaching to the left, is maintained by the Sunliners of Strike Fighter Squadron 81 and flown by Lieutenant Sista Solfeld. It carries an air refueling store, or ARS, on the centerline armament station and 4 external fuel tanks, 2 on each wing. Plugged and receiving fuel is an F-18C from BFA 106, piloted by Lieutenant Gasser.
their flying boom method, where there's a crew member aboard the tanker responsible for making sure the gas gets, the boom gets plugged into the receiver airplane. In this case, it's a combination. It's actually the responsibility of the receiver to make sure he gets his or her probe into that basket.
That's exactly right, Rob. In the Navy, we have it on our pilot's shoulders in order to get into the basket.
And it's not easy, especially when they're having to do it in carrier ops, because it's probably bad weather when they're doing it.
Oftentimes, you can be doing this, no kidding, in the clouds, where you're joining up on a tanker or another Super Hornet in order to get gas.
Hornets, refueling Hornets.
Squadrons flying the F-18C Hornet and the F-18E and F Super Hornet. One electronic attack squadron flying the EA-6B Prowler or the F-A-18G Growler. One airborne early warning squadron flying the E-2C Hawkeye. One helicopter squadron flying the SH-60 Foxtrot or the H-860 Hotel. And a carrier onboard delivery squadron flying the C-2 Greyhound. Ladies and gentlemen, from your left, the aircraft of NAS Oceana and the Fleet Flyby. The 6 jets are being led by Commander G.G. Rhodes of VFA 81, the Sunliners.
Get your cameras on this jet, ladies and gentlemen. Follow this single Hornet. How about that? The 2,000-foot wall of fire from Rich's incredible pyro. Rich Gibson and his team of killer bees. Rich is from Rockford, Illinois. For 25 years he's been doing pyro. And this, ladies and gentlemen, after nearly 20 years being here at Oceana, is his last Oceana appearance as he's set to retire. He has won the Art Joel Memorial Showmanship Award for the best performing act in the air show business back in 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, would you give a great round of applause to Rich Gibson and the Killer Bees? Providing all the pyro today. Blark, what a great demonstration today. Thanks so much. 3.5 hours of instruction. USAA is proud to display here at the show today, and you can learn more about how its mobile technology takes outstanding service to the next level. Visit usaa.com/mobile or stop by their display for more information. USAA, we know what it means to serve.
Out of the break is going to be an F-A-18E Super Hornet, piloted by Lieutenant Dan Solfeld from VFA 81.
Now, when the carrier fleet and the carrier is in flight operations, they try to spend as much time pointed into the wind as possible to get the best airflow over the deck for the best aircraft control for takeoffs and landings. But it does make the fleet kind of vulnerable, doesn't it?
It sure does, Rob.
So you guys come in like this for a lot of reasons, but one of which is to get as many aircraft on the deck in as short a period as possible. And as this one approaches, what kind of procedures do you guys go through when you're lining up to land on the carrier deck?
Well, by this time it's all muscle memory. You've done it so many times it has to be. You're basically lining up with the aircraft carrier at a certain distance from the aircraft carrier. You're going to execute what's known as the overhead maneuver or the brake. That's when we see the aircraft do a 180-degree turn, as we just saw. Next thing we're looking for is the correct sight picture to start your turn in order to line up to land on the back of the aircraft carrier.
Now, when you do that, okay, here come 3 more. Now, they'll break at, what, about 3-second intervals?
It's going to be about 4-second interval, Rob. That's going to give them the amount of spacing that they need in order to land safely on a runway like this.
So 4 seconds between breaks in this carrier break. 4 seconds once they get in the downwind and then turn that oval turn to final. That'll give them spacing of, what, about a minute?
You know, I don't know the exact spacing. It just meets the requirement for the FAA and then specifically at a military base in order to have aircraft on the runway at the same time.
But on a carrier deck, you're landing airplanes really rapidly.
Yep, on a carrier deck, we shoot for somewhere around 45 seconds.
Wow.
A minute, something below a minute is good. What that allows the flight deck crew to do is get the recovered aircraft out of the way in order to prepare for the next aircraft coming in.
Now here comes a single. This is a fairly high-speed carrier break here. We should be on the curve. All right, now, one of the things that is hard for me to understand, having only flown the simulator, is the fact that you don't flare like a civilian pilot would, or an Air Force pilot would, or an airline pilot would. You don't flare, do you, when you land? You just plant the thing.
We sure do, Rob. The reason being is we're trying to touch down at a specific point on the back of the aircraft carrier. So the landing gear on the F-18 Hornet and Super Hornet are built so that they can withstand such a high impact. We're looking at rates of descent upwards of 600, 700 feet per minute.
So do you have back? Does it hurt your back when you land?
No, it feels like you've heard the expression of controlled crash. It's not as violent on your body, but it's quite abrupt.
So you will then go from about 130 knots or 140 knots, which translates just around 150 miles an hour. You'll be stopped within about a second and a half.
Yeah, it takes no time at all.
Now the other thing that you do that is counterintuitive is that as a civilian pilot and flying just single engine land airplanes, when I touch down, I'm coming back with the power back. I touch down and the power comes all the way off. But even if that tail hook catches one of those wires, I'm told that you shove the throttles all the way forward.
Yep, exactly. That's just the case. Either you have a bolter, which means that the hook, no kidding, bounced over the wire that you're trying to catch you with, or you may have missed the wires altogether.
So and those cables are strong enough to keep the airplane under that kind of power from continuing to take off?
They sure are. Yep, they'll hold you even though you're at middle or max.
Wow. How long does a cable last?
I don't know exactly. I know there's a certain number of traps. 100 hits are being told.
Okay, from Jeff Loggle again, former COD driver. So that big 2+ inch steel cable can stop a 40,000-pound airplane under full power. Do it 100 times, then they throw it away.
Yep, they just kick it right off the flight deck.
That's it.
That's right.
Wow. Carrier operations. That's got to be scary. Now these guys, as they land, they're going to land on what I understand is a painted carrier landing area on the runway.
Yep, they've got it painted on the runway just like they would on a flight deck of an aircraft carrier, just to get the most amount of practice. It's a perishable skill and one that you want to practice over and over.
You say it's a perishable skill. What does that mean, perishable skill?
Perishable meaning if you're not current, you haven't done it very many times recently, and then you actually go out and try to do it. It's one that you realize that, hey, it may not be as good as it used to be. It's not one of those things that you just fall back on. You need to be doing it all the time.
Repetition is the mother of skill.
Exactly.
Wow, that's cool. Overhead is the Grumman B-2 Greyhound. The Grumman Iron Works. That name Grumman has been for many years synonymous with naval aviation. From the F-4F Wildcat that served in personal combat at Pearl Harbor to the F-6F Hellcat, the F-8F Bearcat, the F-7F Tiger Cat, and even an airplane you can fly out of here up in the F-14 Tomcat. Pretty fun.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Are you a Tomcat former Tomcat guy?
No, I'm not. I'm a former pilot.
Very good. Here they come. Now, let's talk about, as we come by, we'll have an opportunity to discuss the difference between a Hornet and a Super Hornet. There are some significant differences, not to mention the fact that it's a bigger airplane.
That's right, Rob. The biggest giveaway on a Super Hornet and a Hornet is going to be the engine. You guys look at the approaching aircraft on the right. that allows us to fly formation off of each other, both day and night.
Wow, so you'll fly close formation at nighttime as well as during the day?
Sure will, yeah.
Whoa. Talk about skill. Now the helmet on the pilot, the single seat rhino from the Sunlighter going by, it looks like it's got a big bulbous visor. That's something.
Yep, that's what we call the joint helmet mount.
And what that does is